And we are live. Shawn, can you hear me pretty well?
What's going on, man?
I'm just kicking back. I'm the Lunatic Libertarian. This man over here is Shawn Hickman. He is your Washington State Libertarian Party representative at large, and sitting down with the lunatic to discuss some things that this world is going crazy real fast, isn't it, sir?
It is. It is. Can I ask a question first? Do I get to ask questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man,
We are gonna sit back and forth and have a conversation, the two of us.
I love it. So the last time you and I spoke, there was some chat about getting a fundraising boxing event going on with you and a certain libertarian that I don't want to mention by name because I don't know if the contracts have been signed. Where's this at, man? Are we gonna see a boxing match or not?
I think we're at a standstill. I think we might be at a crossroads where this does not happen. This individual is currently doing some things in his personal life that he needs to handle, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And maybe maybe we can get something going at the next national convention. Where if you can get it in Reno again, maybe we can rent a boxing club for the day, and then see where people can really hash some stuff out
I
at.
I like it. Look, it's not quite as fun as watching a boxing match, but I will challenge you here and now to a game of cornhole, any location in the United States, preferably on the western side of the United States, but anywhere in the United States, a game of cornhole. I win, you support my favorite charity. You win, I support your favorite charity. I'm in, I'll promote it everywhere.
Sounds good. I'm not a very rich man, so how much do I got to donate? We can come to some terms on that.
You know what? We can figure that out. You know what we'll do is we'll have sponsors. You won't have to put up anything.
Okay,
You
that
just got to
sounds good to
sell your
me.
sponsors that they're going to vote for you.
Okay, that sounds good with me. I'm all about that. So,
We'll get all
um,
the funds to come in. You win, the money goes to your charity. I win, the money goes to my charity. Boom, there we go.
sounds good to me.
And I will match whatever we raise.
Sounds good to also. It's always
That's what
good
I'm
to
talking
benefit the
about.
people out there that are
There
in
we
need
go.
right now.
Cool, man.
Speaking of that, look at the current rate of inflation in this country. Now, you're a guy that's got some economic ingenuity in your head. So let me know what you think is going to be that broadcast for the next 4 or 5 months, maybe into the end of the year.
See, the problem is they don't have very good tools. When they drive you off this cliff, they will sell you these ideas of how they're going to fix it with things like tax hikes and interest rate increases. At some point, they're going to start looking at wage control and price control. And when we get into those wage control and price controls, that's where things are going to get really dangerous. I personally, as bad as gas prices are, I would rather see expensive gas prices than to see price caps on gas because it's better to be able to find expensive gas than to not be able to find gas at all. And so, look, if they just stop printing money, we would start fixing some of these problems.
Right. And Ron Paul said, you can't fix inflation with more inflation. It's just utterly ridiculous. Now, do you think that the common person understands that money right now buys pretty much nothing that is of a substantial asset? I mean, there's money in circulation, but I mean, when it comes to what that money buys right now, the purchasing power of the dollar is pretty much in the toilet, right?
It's interesting because the way that you frame that question is you asked, do people understand this? And I think some people get it, and I think others don't. I think the good news is a growing number of people are starting to get it. If you put people through hard enough times, they will learn lessons. And so while I don't want to go through hard times, that's, I'm kind of a coddled type. I got meat on my bones, right? I live a very first world privileged life that I enjoy. And so maybe I could use a skipped meal here or there, but for some people it's going to be very painful. And and I'm joking about this, and I probably shouldn't, because it's going to get serious. Like, there's going to be people that we know that are going to suffer, and that's going to suck. And and I know that you're very big, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on your show, because one of the things that you talk about a lot is the currency of having skill. And being able to to build your skill set to be valuable in this world, and not just in the world that we live in today, but the world that we're transitioning into very rapidly. And so I think you make that point probably more often and more eloquent than anyone about the importance of uplifting your skill. And so hopefully people are investing in that and hearing that message from you.
Oh, I'm trying. A lot of people are, they push back because the insecurity versus the security is thinks that, government is there to make sure that I'm secure when I can't be secure in myself. Now, I think that being secure in yourself makes you secure from government. And, those two statements are really, really different in people's mindset nowadays. It's like when you talk to people that are disenfranchised or anything like that, they say, well, how are my children going to eat or any of this if I lose my WIC program or if I lose my food stamps or whatever the situation may be. The thing is that it's there as a slight crutch, not a lifeline for the rest of your life. Now, if we can, I've been on public assistance and I don't have any quarrels about it, but the way I looked at it is I invested in that being a 16, 17, 18-year-old individual that didn't have any children. And I invested into these funds into the government. So when I needed it in my later lifetime, then I used it. But I wasn't there very long. I was only there for a couple years. So you hit some rough spots. You have the security in that you can fall back on a program that will still allow you to be fed. But trust me, it's not there for the greatest foods on the market or anything like that. It's for the bare necessities, to feed yourself from a standard of how many calories you're supposed to be taking in per day because of another organization that the government says that you're supposed to trust. So it's building skills that are allowing you to take your next step, your next breath, interact with fellow human beings without being violent, and have a common connection that you're succeeding for each other, instead of like, well, I'm paying this mechanic this much money. Why do I got to pay him this much money? He's screwing me over every time I'm in there. My shit's broke. These are just things that I think if you have the ability to pay for these goods and services, by all means. But with the situation we have now, if you have money, is it something that you can still rely on if we keep running down this hole where it's just, it tanks it across the global scale?
No, very good point. And again, some skills are going to diminish in value, and some skills are only going to increase in value. And doing an inventory of what those skills are and which skills you possess and which skills you could obtain, especially if you know someone that is a master craftsman at something and you can learn that craft, man, do it, learn it. Mentorship's extremely important. I wish that I was better with my hands. I know that you got the diesel mechanic thing going on. It's probably nothing that you couldn't fix. I come from a different line of work where I come from a corporate world, like leading salespeople, putting together sales plans and strategies. Those things are still going to be in hot demand for a long time. Until the robots start doing the selling, but and even then the robots will probably need training until they train robots to be sales managers and sales VPs. So I think you just got to figure out what you're good at, make sure that skill is marketable, and push that thing forward. What I'm really keen on though is making sure that you're sharing it. I don't like gatekeeping information. If I've got information that can help people on personal finance, I don't hide that stuff. Let's share it. Let's help our friends and family grow with us. So I think that stuff's important.
I think it's important too. I mean, it's just like me going out and yes, I get paid for this. So if I'm using an extra amount of fuel to transport my tools to your location, to throw something on a vehicle, depending on what that job may entail, like I went and helped my buddy out and threw 3 injectors in his, Ford EcoBoost. And I didn't charge them what a shop would have charged them. I think they wanted like $2,000, and I charged them a few $100 just to compensate for the fuel back and forth. And then we had dinner and shit like that too. So we conversated, and I think that helping people for a mutual benefit, as long as there's no detriment there, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that there's a lot of competition of people saying that, well, I'm better than you at this, or I'm better. Well, if your skills prove that, fine. But if they don't prove that, then I think that being humble in that is a good thing for a person, because I may rely on Shawn Hickman. Maybe Washington's the only state left in the final apocalypse, and I'm coming out to the mountains, and Shawn Hickman's there with his commune, and I know him. We could probably get some stuff done together. It's good to know people, and especially if you can bounce skills off of each other. Like, I like to learn. You introduced me to Thomas Paine and a bunch of other authors that I never heard of, and sparked a lot of other interest just in our conversation. So I really appreciate you for that. So I mean, I just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, the book club is coming soon. We're going to launch a book club here called My Books. And we're going to hopefully get people interested across a wide spectrum. And the first read that we're going to do is going to be Common Sense by Thomas Paine. And so we'll bring people in very slowly to reading different documents that I think are inspiring and ultimately influence people that understand the importance of protecting individual rights.
Now, you have an official position as being the Washington State LP representative at large, and you approach a lot of people, you interact with a lot of people in trying to promote liberty. Do you think that it's a tough sell when people have their securities tied into government so much, and it's kind of hard to crack that code? I think a lot of people are starting to see the light just because it's going to be a very detrimental time frame for them personally.
Yeah, no, I think with my communication style when I'm talking to people, whether it's through social media apps like the ones that you and I have interacted on, or in person, to me, it's really important to figure out where people are at. And you don't figure out where they're at unless you ask a lot of questions. And by asking those questions, you can figure out, what are their, what is their background in terms of understanding, philosophy? Are they rooted in, a particular type of philosophy, or are they well read? Do they understand economics? And it's okay if they don't. There's no shame if people are at where they're at, and they can always grow. But the question that I like to ask people is, when we start talking about politics, and I don't ask, who do you vote for? Why do you vote for them? What I tend to ask for is, if you were to draw up a political figure, what would they be like? What would they represent? What are the values that they would possess? And then when they draw that up, whatever that is, whatever their carnation is, then you just simply ask them, is there anybody in politics today that you think embodies that? And the answer is going to be no, almost all the time. Almost all the time. They may have one or two heroes that they hold up, and then that tells you a lot of information about where they're at. If you were to ask me, well, hey, who's somebody that you hold up? I have to go back to somebody like Ron Paul, to somebody that I could really say that I admire and I agree with, like, the large majority of their positions. And he's been out of Congress for a long time. So who is there that I'm really pointing to? A lot of the people that I point to, that I draw inspiration from, are not holding national office. These are people that are sitting in local office, and some people aren't even running for office. They're just living their values. Small business owners, family people, the people that are just holding it down and are true to their belief system. But when you can have a real conversation, strip out the word conservative, strip out the word liberal, stop talking about political parties, and just ask people what is important to you. What I find is then transitioning into when they go, well, what about you? I belong to this party called the Libertarian Party. And then most of the time they've heard of it, but they don't know exactly what it is. And if you are the first representation that they've ever spoke to in the wild of the Libertarian Party, or if you're trying to correct misconceptions, it's important to not beat them over the head with your ideas, because libertarian philosophy, it's a little bit more broad than any of us really want to acknowledge. And so my ideas might not be exactly like yours, and no two libertarian are exactly the same. But at the end of the day, it's not about us sharing every single opinion. It's about meaning that it's okay for us to have these differences of opinion. And so if you and I do disagree, I'm not going to use the power of the state to make you think like I think. That's the real difference. And I think that when you just keep it as simple as that and don't make it, we don't have to get into the controversies of abortion and 2A, but I know you're going to go there. But we don't have to talk about those when we're connecting with people. We can connect about real things like, do you have family? Okay, that's cool. Like, what made you want to have a family? Is there anything that you would like the government to do differently for you and your family? Most of the time, the answer is going to be, yeah, leave us alone, stop taxing us, things like that. And that's from people that don't identify as libertarian. Let them do the talking.
I completely agree. I think you're absolutely right in that. And that's one of the messaging systems that I'm trying to learn. And I think that I kind of like forced myself into that by starting this podcast and actually interacting with people on a level of a human being stature, and then expanding out from there to find out where the common ground is with everybody. And you've heard me say it many times. I think that the labels, titles, and categories of people are ridiculous. They hold on to these things because then it creates a hierarchy in the social economic standard or society in general. And then people want to place themselves higher than another human being, because of these labels, titles, and categories, to say that, well, I'm a this or I'm a that. Like somebody's knowledge level on a specific topic, yeah, it may not. But if they have the gist of how it works, just because they don't know all the intricate details doesn't mean that they're wrong. But to slam somebody, and I'm guilty of this in trying to like it's like forceful trying to like promote yourself, to a point. But if people aren't vibing with you, then that, hey man, if you want to have a conversation later on, be all. Or if you're just totally getting shut down by somebody, it's like, okay, you're secure in your beliefs, by all means continue on with that. I think that people are starting to realize that the government was a sheep or a wolf in sheep's clothing, and the policies that they've implemented via like super PACs and stuff like that, where they kill competition, is routed people into this narrow pigeonhole of, well, you can only have two choices, pick one. You can only have these two choices, pick one. And the limitation of choice is something that the Libertarian Party is, I think, wholeheartedly just completely against, especially when it comes from the state.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm going to stop referring to us as a third party. I'm just going to refer to us as a party, because honestly, these distinctions of major and minor party, those are distinctions and labels that other people have created. And I certainly don't think that there's anything minor about our ideas. And I certainly don't think there's anything minor about our values that we want to promote. And so one of the key things is to just get focused on, we belong there. Look, if you don't have a seat at the table, build a new table, grab a chair. I'm telling you right now, my attitude about this stuff, I'm not going to cry that the system is broken. I'm not going to cry that the system is rigged and unfair. I am going to boldly stand there and say, well, what can I do? Like, okay, these are the rules. They kind of suck, but how do I establish myself to do something? And that's something, maybe having a libertarian president is too ambitious. I'm not saying it is. Maybe there's somebody out there that could do that. But what I will tell you is that what is in the realm of possibility and within that is reachable for all of us is to run for school board, run for city council, depending on the size of your city, run for mayor, county commissioner, fire commissioner, whatever it might be, right? These local offices matter, and bringing libertarian voices, liberty-minded voices, whether you're and forget about ego. You don't have to run as a libertarian. Go find a nonpartisan race and just bring your same viewpoints to a nonpartisan race. Go win that damn race, and then go do a good job at it. I really think that thinking locally is really going to be the game changer. It's the writing seems to be on the wall. We have the big parties talking about national divorce. It's like, great, you guys want to get a national divorce? That's fine, because we were always your bastard children anyways. So like, you could get the divorce all you want. We don't give a shit.
I think that it hits the nail on the head. Is that when you stop trying to regulate yourself to what somebody else's standard is. It's like, no, I'll just do my own thing. And I think that, building a messaging board like podcast systems, like Not a Real Libertarian has an entire like podcasting crew of different venues, like the veterans that are on there. And then you got Liberty 101, which is actually a liberty-minded group that promotes Keystone. I think that it's good for everybody as long as it's cooperative to build, because you're not going to just go in as a single libertarian into an office and be like, well, this is policy and that's it, without having, especially in the larger groups of state level or on a federal level, that you have to build coalitions to get policy not necessarily passed. In my viewpoint, it's always going to be retracting policies that are just bad policies in general. What would be the first thing that you could do in Washington? I know that Mr. Wiley is running. David Wiley. You told me what was his name? I don't want to get it wrong, but is Lone Wolf or Gray Wolf?
Yeah, we have Justin Gray Wolf is running for Congress here in the great state of Washington. And yeah, running for Congress is a very ambitious thing. And if you could get in there, you could certainly ruffle a few feathers. You mentioned David Wiley, who's running for State Legislative District 38 out of Washington. These are important positions. These are really important positions, as are the city council positions that libertarians are going to run and win moving forward. So I look at the different roles, and I think, okay, what do we have to do to get across the finish line, and find races that we could win, have candidates that are viable, and then build a support team. That's the other thing that's really cool in Washington. We've got Whitney Boatwright, who you should get her on your show. She's amazing. She heads our campaign committee, where she is in charge of coming up with identifying candidates, putting together a team, which I'm a part of, which I'm learning a lot from her, to be able to support these candidates. Because it's not enough to just identify candidates. You have to have a team of people that are willing to put in the time, the blood, sweat, and the tears to do it. Running for office is not an individual sport. It is a team sport. And I'm really excited about what Whitney's building here, in terms of putting together this campaign committee and putting us in a position over the next few years where you're going to see libertarians in the state of Washington not just running for office but winning offices.
That sounds excellent. And you're going to have to give me her last name again, or just send me a link in the messenger. Now, when you talk about building a team to build a candidate. We're doing the same thing here in Wisconsin. Our LP chair of Wisconsin, Jacob Vandenplas, is running for 8th Congressional District against Mike Gallagher, the incumbent. There's not a Democrat running. It's going to be a Libertarian versus a Republican. National helped out with getting him on the ballot as far as signature validation. There was a lot of signatures that were contested. I know the GOP spent a bunch of money on it, but he's already made public appearance because he is on the ballot. He will be there for voters for the 8th Congressional District without with a do nothing Congressman now, Mike Gallagher, who only trumpets really right wing issues that are party line, and that's it. There's no real constituents that can validate his time in office. He really hasn't done jack. So Jacob is really hitting the campaign trail hard, and as the state chair, I think he's going to have to relinquish that role if he does win. But he has an absolute shot to hit a federal office from the state of Wisconsin, and we're hitting him hard wherever we can to get him out there so that people know he can make a difference for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look, the Libertarian Party for the foreseeable future is going to be underfunded in comparison to other parties, which means you're going to just have to be grittier. You're going to have to outwork, outsmart. And one of those things is just going door to door, knocking doors, talking to people, talking to the voters, and letting them know where you stand on the issues, and just letting them know that that you have different and bolder ideas. Get an idea of what it is that they would like to see for somebody in that particular role, and just connect with them on a human to human level. And I think that's the most impactful thing that we can do as libertarians when we're running for office, is just get out there, talk to the people.
And a lot of the base issues stem from public policy, which is probably one of the easiest things to state, is that the Libertarian Party is there to reduce the policies that implement barricades on your life. Get government out of your life. Start making the choices that are beneficial for you, not detrimental to your neighbor. Benefiting yourself by robbing your neighbor is not what I'm talking about. It's about common ground, cooperation, nonviolence, and coming together. Just, you may not even like the person, but if you have mutual benefit that can come out of your interaction, I guarantee you people do that every single day anyway. It's not anything new. This is not a hard concept. As long as you're willing to actually be cooperative, then detrimental. I think that human beings, and it's not a competition. It shouldn't be a competition of who does it better or whatever. It should be something that it comes out of the good of your heart because you're actually being productive instead of just consuming.
Totally agree. I totally agree with that. When are we going to get you to run?
I am a felon. I cannot run for any office of the state. So
those are bad rules.
I've been told that before. I've been told by one of the first people that I've interviewed that's trying to do something down in the Wisconsin-Idaho border area, or Iowa border area, where I think it's around La Crosse or something like that. And she's trying to get affiliates started so that promote libertarian issues, libertarian policy down there. And it's like, it's just a growing thing that's going around this state. And I encourage any candidate, go hit parades. You can hit a lot of, instead of knocking on them doors individually, if you hit a parade, you can hit a lot of people real quick. We found out that we didn't print enough literature for how many people actually showed up to his first public appearance. So, you live and you learn and you move forward. And, a lot of people are fed up. And I think they're really understanding that the propaganda is real and it is not to your benefit. What do you think about private communes or private societies that can say that, well, if we invite you, you're good. If we don't invite you, you're not good. And I think this goes into a little bit of, but we're not in a situation yet where we have invasion of community from another community.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a strong believer in property rights. If you buy property and you decide that you want to share that property with a community of people, I think that that's amazing. I think that's awesome. I'm not so excited when the government is setting up these communities and making the rules and that sort of thing. But for private voluntary association, knock yourself out. I think that would be a good thing. It would probably require doing it in manageable numbers. I don't really have a thought on how big that number would be before that before you start running into some real problems. But I do think that in smaller groups, I think you could thrive.
Do you think one of the most important positions libertarians could run for or should run for is the sheriff of the or is the office of the local sheriff, so that the practice of public policy is to the discretion of the elected official as far as he understands the law constitutionally?
Yeah, no, I think sheriff plays an important role. The fact that it is an elected office, it's much easier to hold that accountable in terms of voting in and out than when we look at police chiefs and we look at the power that police unions have. Not a big fan of public unions. Don't mind private unions, but public unions, when they're funded by tax dollars, it seems to be quite a pickle that gets created. So yeah, I think sheriff is an important one. The one that I'm excited about is simply just school boards. I think school choice is an extremely important thing. I believe that government being involved in our children's education has not proven to be the most optimal way to do this. And if you have a public school system that works, more power to you. That's awesome. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do there, but if you're in a system where your public system is failing you, having the government tell you that you can't find options outside of that is just insanity. And so school choice is extremely important. And I think that just having people, libertarian voices involved in education in general is really, really important. It's voices that we need. And you don't have to be on a school board. You could just attend the meetings and really just put that pressure out there and voice your opinion about what it is that you would like to see happen. I could tell you this, that there's some school districts that are more active than others. In some cases, it's the same 11 parents saying the same things over and over again at these meetings. And then in other communities, you have a very lively group of people that come together, very passionate about what they believe in. And I think what's important is for the libertarian message to stand out differently than what the other parties are talking about when it comes to education. We have a culture war that's being waged by both Democrats and Republicans that I think the libertarians can stay out of and just say, hey, look, the culture is going to fight and win the culture war. We just want the government to stay out of our way. And I think that is the winning formula. And I do think it's a little dangerous if we try to pick up slogans and playbooks from the other parties, because if they had the answers, they would be doing it right. And I don't think that they have the answers, and I don't think they're doing it right. And I think our messaging really needs to stay focused on the importance of an education, but making sure that that the parents and the student are the ones that are first considered, and not some school board, not a school district, the administrators. And I think as a step one of the funding following the students, I think that's fine as step one. I think step two would be, let's get government out of education. I think ultimately that's the secret, is to build. We need to build parallel institutions, right, that sit outside of government, We're not going to be able to do it overnight, but once we erect these parallel institutions, then we can have these voluntary associations where we can go and enroll our children. And it's amazing when you look at the cost of doing this. We were always led to believe that, oh, it's more expensive to do it this way. No, not at all. When you look at the construction costs that schools have, they need new construction, they need to build a new school, they need to do this, they need to do that. But yet the teachers are asking the parents, to buy the books and the supplies and everything else. Where is the money going? I would prefer for it to be ran in an efficient manner, in a way that puts the needs of the students first. Let's be very clear. We have a school system that was built decades ago for a world that doesn't even exist anymore. It's insanity. So we do have to rethink these strategies. And this isn't a Republican thing or a Democrat thing or even a libertarian thing. This is do you care about the future thing? Do you care about your children's education thing? If you do, then let's come together and let's think about the best way to do this and not just the same old thing. We got to get out of that hamster wheel.
I think one of the best things that happened when people were locked in is that they actually found out what day-to-day interactions were with their families in a full day's period. Because how much time do people actually spend with their children? If you look at it, if they're on a school bus by 6:30 in the morning, off the school bus by 5 o'clock, 5:30 at night, and then chores, homework, whatever the after school routine is, and then back sleep, and then the rat race, you do it all over again. I think that because I homeschool my children, my wife is home all day with them. They enjoy time outside. They and the efficiency is you're talking about how much time is wasted in public education schools with filling the gaps with they're supposed to be there to learn how to read, learn how to write, learn how to do mathematics, understand civics, stuff like that. And none of that is important, but the wasteful time that's used in disciplinary measures because people just don't want to be there to begin with. The biases in the information that they receive, not using I think the Library of Congress doesn't exclude any published literature. You may want to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that every published book is a part of the Library of Congress. I think that you can access that information, but there is a world of information in the palm of people's hands, and they look more for entertainment than they do for education. I think that's a problem because you have this instant gratification, but you can make money by either participating in it, mocking it, making a fool of yourself, or whatever. Just as long as that entertainment wheel keeps moving, I think we're moving more and more to the idiocracy realm. And that was supposed to be a spoof, but it seems like it's happening in real time because I see people that can't perform simple tasks or even assimilate a simple, like, go get the keys to a customer's vehicle and then comes out with a door opener. I mean, it's getting real bad as far as even the simplest task being able to be formed by people. And I think that's a manufactured thing in this country, the dumbing down of America.
No, you bring up good points. I look at when I see a school bus, and then I see a prison bus, and I look at them closely. They're so similar in their look. If you go into a lunchroom in a school, and if you look at the tray of food, it's very similar to what they serve in a prison. And so we've basically designed schools and prisons to be very similar. And is it a coincidence? No. So we have a prison problem. We have an education problem. But hey, let's get in a hurry to get the federal government further, more deeply involved in healthcare because they're so good at everything else that they do. We should just get them involved in medicine.
We have too much lobbying. We have too much reliance in the instant gratification. Pill's going to solve my problem. What is the problem if you sit and ask yourself, because I had to do with this self-reflection, is like, what is my problem? Well, it seems like the barricades that the government has in public policy has become my problem, because I have a label now that I'm a felon. Well, that causes social stigma, and then turns off employers to potential employment. It's like you become that label, you become that person, and it's like, no, if society wasn't dictated on the labels, titles, and categories, if you just met me and let's say I was wearing a very nice business suit, still had the same beard, everything, but just wearing a nice suit, shoes, talk very professional, there would be no impression of what is underneath the suit. It's how you present yourself in public. These are standards that have gone to the wayside, but I think it's going to come back because I think everybody realizes that there's an image that we've been sold that's still in the back of our minds of what society is supposed to look like. But depending on if you read science fiction versus westerns versus Chancellor or Chaucer's tale, it's like it gives you a different perspective because that's your own experience, and it's a real fine line with people because we surround ourselves with like things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When I was hiring people, uh, all I cared about was could they do the job I was hiring them for. That's really well. You have to play well as a team, right? You can't steal, can't hurt people, right? Can't do those things. But at the end of the day, like, are you competent enough to do the job? And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And uh, we've seen this thing develop in the sales industry over the years. I remember the first few years that I was in sales, I was spending a disproportionate amount of my money on fancy shoes and fancy clothes in order to look the part. And then as things evolved and buyers became more mature and analytics came out about what was truly important and how you actually win sales, uh, that that sort of thought pattern changed. And living in Silicon Valley for many years, I remember going from wearing, suits and ties to, wearing, khakis and hoodies and, t-shirts and Vans and showing up at meetings. I remember a time showing up at a meeting at a company in Silicon Valley that would not let us start the meeting until my boss and I took our ties off. And you want to know what's interesting? This is funny. You got to get him on the show if he hasn't been on here. Lars, who is running for president. If you can get Lars on here, he was the guy. I think he was VP of marketing at the time. It was for a company called Friend Finder. I'm sure he doesn't mind me telling this story. Their culture was so cool. They set the standard of how Silicon Valley was. We walked in there and we were told to take our ties off or they weren't going to talk to us. And then pretty soon Silicon Valley just started chilling out. And I kind of feel like Lars, was one of the companies that was really kind of changing that, hey, you could run a successful company and not just be a stuffed shirt. And so, interesting guy. If you get him on here, that'd be great because he's got a lot to say. And I could tell you firsthand, walking into that company, everybody that worked for the company that I was in, I was selling cybersecurity solutions at the time. Everybody wanted to fight over that account. Everybody wanted that account because they liked working with the people there. Imagine building a culture where the salespeople that want to sell to you want to come to you because you're the cool company, right? I mean, interesting guy and somebody we need to talk to more because that dude was pioneering some really good ideas in a corporate world that was resistant to new and good ideas.
I think that a lot of the cultures change on a lot of different things. I think that being in the realm of being a diesel mechanic, I think people still like the imagery of the patch on the arm that says that you took the test, you have this, because whether you're in the larger markets working for a dealership, that shit really doesn't matter. When you're in the smaller markets though, and you're working for an independent, that imagery really matters when you're trying to sell a service, because the dealership already has the local of the manufacturer. You're just some shit, guy on the corner working on big rigs. So um, to maintain a reputation like that is very hard, just from the simple labor aspect. And it's very hard when people don't want to do manual physical labor anymore. I'm not saying that it's everyone, but the vast majority of Americans don't enjoy physical labor. They rather make big bucks doing stuff that they like to do, but then when they find out that the job's the job, no matter what, you're still putting time into it. It is what it is. Now, I like my job with the physical labor. Sometimes it gets a little intense because I've been doing it so long, but that's just like anything. The body wears down over time. You try and keep yourself as fit as possible, but repetitive motion injuries happen. This is something that's not new. Um, to move out of that field though, and to be like a service writer or something like that, unless you're making commission, you take an instant 15, $20,000 a year hit, and that's supposedly moving up in the world, and it's a really hard to. I knew guys that were in their late 70s, they retired and they were dead probably in 6 to 12 months, because they just stopped moving and that was it. It's a real hard thing, because you have to invest so much in yourself. Like you said, you were buying suits and shoes and trying to look the part. Um, the tooling that we have to purchase is very expensive, because it's something that you're not protected by a union. You're not protected from the company. You have to provide your own tools, and you can invest hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into tooling to do your job easier physically. And it just it's kind of a turnoff for that industry, especially when you're talking about what gets food from crop to table.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having expertise, and being good at what you do, and then being able to project that credibility onto people, it gives people confidence. People want to work with people that are the best. I mean, if you're someone that values a good haircut, for example, I don't. My hair's thinning, but once upon a time, yeah. See, you got the same problem. You're a little more advanced than my case, but. Once upon a time, you invested in a barber that knew how to cut your hair. And look, you didn't look at the sign on the wall that said what beauty college they went to. You either knew somebody that got a haircut from them and it was a good haircut, or you rolled the dice, you took that chance, you got a haircut, and then you go back. Right? People go back to the businesses that serve them well. So obtaining a skill, becoming really proficient at what you do, and then being able to project that out to people, that's at the end of the day, it comes down to value. People will separate themselves from their money for something of value, and with our money being worth less and less, those skills are even more valuable, because we want to get rid of this money because it's not worth anything. So give us something of value, we'll take it.
What do you think can happen when reduction of government leads to reduction of these institutions, and may even change the centralized currency to like say a Bitcoin, or away from the Federal Reserve? Because I think that ending the Fed's probably the first thing that should happen in government. Um, because they're a private industry, and I think ending the Fed is probably one of the biggest things. And that's where I think that having the skill sets to trade for mutual benefit, and it's just hard to put value on human time and effort, because the mental effort of one person to the physical effort of another, are they quantifiable when you're talking brain surgery versus being somebody that fixes a vehicle? You know what I mean? As far as, is it the same labor intensity just because one does it physically versus one that does it mentally? And that's going to be a hard thing to quantify with any human being, because everybody's time is of the utmost value to them, or at least it should be.
Yeah, you brought something up that was interesting. You mentioned Bitcoin, And I know there's a lot of libertarians that probably listen to this that are Bitcoin maxis or somewhere in between. They've been seduced. I will say this. I'm in the market for crypto. Like, I've got my toe in the water. My risk, my appetite for risk, the tolerance that I have personally for risk, I won't invest too much into crypto. And there's probably people that are going to listen to this that are going to reach out to me and tell me what I don't get and don't understand and whatnot. I personally come from a school of thought that's a little bit more in alignment with the Peter Schiffs of the world, that want a genuine store of value that's been reliable and time tested over a long period of time. I like precious metals much more than I like crypto. And so, if somebody could pay me in gold or pay me in Bitcoin, I'm taking the gold. And now, if you had a time machine and you could go back and get Bitcoin back in 2015, I guess maybe that's a different story. But it's a risk tolerance thing for me. I'm not telling people in the Bitcoin world that they're wrong, for the investments that they make. It's just not my risk tolerance. What I will say that scares me about cryptocurrency is that, knowing the way that our government works today, the likelihood of us really settling into a decentralized currency is probably unlikely. I would imagine that the authoritarians are going to do what they can to destroy it and reimagine it with a centralized currency. This is already happening in China. The plans are already laid here. And I think that I would hope that this might be the common ground that that the crypto world and myself can find, is that we need to fight against centralized cryptocurrency. I think that's a really bad idea. For a lot of reasons. We do a whole other episode on that. But yeah, I think that would be a bad idea. But yeah, hopefully I didn't offend the Bitcoin maxis too much. Sorry.
I'm not a big fan of cryptocurrency. I'm not a person that's going to stick the little money that I do take in to maybe do something in the market. I'm a person that likes to trade my assets, which are my skills, for what I need. And whether I receive goods and services in the form of currency or any kind of other tangible asset, whether it be gold, silver, precious metals of any kind, because precious metals are something that are, mined out of the ground. It's not something that's, great right now for the environment. I think people that are on the EV vehicle kick don't really understand where those precious or even the raw materials come from to make those vehicles. And being in the automotive industry, I'm not a big fan of 5G and automated vehicles. I'm not a big fan of LEDs transmitting data. The ECUs are getting crazy. And, when you use that kind of technology, it's too easily to be controlled and manipulated and stuff like that, to where there's examples of Tesla shutting their vehicles off that aren't performed at original Tesla dealerships or service centers. They're not updated there. They can remotely shut your vehicle off, and it's just done, because I don't know where it is in the small print of the contract that you sign when you purchase that vehicle, but it is to only be serviced. And the right to repair your own stuff is something that I think is lost, because everything has become so specialized.
Yeah, no objection to that. No objection at all. The one thing I would say is, when you say that you would like to exchange your skill for things of value, the only thing I can add in there is that that does require you to work. And I would love to see you get to some diversification where you could make money while you sleep. And then the assets that you acquire through the skill that you have, utilize those assets to grow more assets while you sleep. because the most limiting resource that you have is time. And so even if you were the best diesel mechanic, the best whatever, your constraint, even if you were charged the most amount of money, eventually, if you were charging $10,000 an hour, eventually you would run out of hours. And so being able to make money while you sleep is extremely important. And so passive residual income, that is the business. But I agree with you that you can leverage your skill in order to build the assets to be able to build the treasure chest that then makes your assets pay you, make your money work for you. But yeah, I would hate for you to run into that problem where you run out of hours in the day and then you can't make any more money. So,
Well, if you want the position, I don't know how much you charge for financial advisory, but we can have a conversation on that later. Um, if we can get to where the level of security in the individual is on their skills and their currency, and whether it's the U.S. Federal Reserve note or it is gold or anything like that. What do you think would probably be the best avenue for people to put away or try to save when you may not have two nickels to squeeze together? Where can we get rid of that line of we have impoverished people, but we need to incentivize them for working themselves and stuff like that? Maybe they're the disabled is something that people should take care of because that's how the old communities used to do it. You took care of your young, your disabled, your elderly. You provided the food for them, even though they could no longer work in the crops or anything like that. And they were the caretakers to the young while the able bodies were out there producing so that the community could survive. Do you think that we can get into that community mindset on a national level?
I mean, we were once there. If you think about the conditions that gave rise to why we no longer live that way or behave that way, it's government interference. Once upon a time, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but once upon a time, the churches filled a big role there. Families and local communities pulled together in voluntary association, where it was for mutual benefit. And then to answer that more difficult question of what do you do, if somebody is not able-bodied or able-minded, can you pull together? And I think the answer there is really simple. We are a generous group of people, always have been. We really are generous people. I would say if we could end the income tax. 1913 was a pretty bad year. We got the income tax, we got the IRS, got the Fed. If we were to get rid of these things, imagine the potential for generosity. Imagine the unlocking of potential of what people would do. And I know that there'd be people that would listen to this and go, yeah, people are selfish and they would just do their own thing. Well, that would be self-defeating because there probably would be few people that would say, well, screw you, I'm going to take what's mine and I'm going to do my thing. Well, guess what? You don't play nice in the sandbox, well, it's going to come back. There's a reason why people do build communities. And I'm not a collectivist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do strongly believe in voluntary associations where we could pull together in a voluntary way. We don't need to, be labeled by others and classified and grouped together, as a cohort against our will. But when we do come together for mutual benefit, it works. I mean, you can look, I don't know how far back you want to go, but cultures pulled together. Your warriors were warriors. And, whatever you're good at, you do, you contribute. Like, this is not rocket science. I think the disabling part of this equation is we live in a world where the federal tax rate is what the upper end of it is 37%, and if you live in the wrong state, you could add another 13% to that. You're now talking, before you get into gas fees and sales taxes and all of these other things, you're talking about 50% of your income completely wiped out. And I guess my question would be, what would you do if you had 50%, more? If you had that money, what would you have done with it? My guess is you would have done a little of a lot of things. You would have saved a little bit more. You might have bought a couple of nicer things. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I wear T-shirts that cost $5. So I'm not the fanciest guy in the world. But I save like I'm going to be buying shirts that cost $5,000. So I'm definitely conscious of like this rainy day thing and putting away for it. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that part of your question is like, what about the people who don't have it? Like if you can't rub two nickels together, what are you supposed to do? And the answer, I could tell you this, is not raising minimum wage. That's not going to fix it, because all that's going to do is raise costs of living as well. Well, the only thing that you can really truly do is uplift your skill. And it's right back to the conversation we started with, which I think a lot of our conversations, I think, are going to circle back to this when we get into these conversations, is that if you want to have the ability, to extract more value out of life, you're going to have to build skills to be able to add value. You get what you give. And so investing in yourself early is extremely important, investing often. And guess what? If you got a late start, well, then you got a late start. Don't cry about it. Pick yourself up, do what you got to do. And the other thing is ask people that are doing the things that you want to do, how they got there. Like if I wanted to be a diesel mechanic, if that was my dream, or if I said, you know what, I want to be the best damn diesel mechanic that I could be, what I would do is I would say, Justin, hey, can I come crash on your couch? I'll buy every meal, I'll cook, right? I'm going to give you something out of it. You're going to get something out of this deal, but I want to be able to mirror you. I'm going to ask you some questions. Hopefully I don't slow you down too much. And then maybe you can give me some hands-on experience. Over the next 6 weeks, I want you to teach me as much as you possibly can about what you do to make your living. I would imagine that following somebody that's an expert in that field for 6 weeks is better than if I win it on my own for 18 months. I'm going to learn from the best. I would pay to learn from the best. Some people cry about internships and they say, oh, they took advantage of you. Well, did they? If you learned something, maybe not. I would actually pay for the right opportunity. And that's the thing, right? And mentors are happy to do this. People that obtain the level of skill that you have, they don't go around trying to gatekeep this stuff. People like you, like I've talked to you, you're like just baffled why people don't want to learn what you know, and you're baffled why they don't take the time to invest in what you can share with them for free. And so I don't know, when people genuinely want to obtain skills, when you're hungry enough, that little hunger pain, I think, is slightly good. So one thing I will say about like the problems that we're having, inflation and all, and the economy is going to hit a cliff. Maybe we need some hunger pains. Maybe we need everybody to get back to a little bit of like, hey, what's life really about? What am I here for? And how do I take this to the next level? I think we got fat and happy for far too freaking long. And look, I am the king of fat and happy. I am super happy and I'm super fat. But I will tell you, there are lessons that I've missed during that time about, you get comfortable. There are tricks that I've missed because life has been easy. Life's going to become more difficult. And hopefully we have the stomach to do what we got to do to make it through.
I would hope that people do not become like what we have in prison systems when you're not getting canteen or you're being extorted from canteen or something like that. I would hope that doesn't happen on this country level. I think we're going to run into where people are going to start developing different systems that compensate for the failed systems. And I think that's going to be human nature. We're running over about an hour, Shawn. I really want to appreciate you for coming on. I think we could have a conversation for 3, 4, 5 hours. We probably could talk all day and night, especially if you get a couple of drinks and a couple of joints and some other things cracking going on. So let the people know where they can find all the candidates in Washington right now. If there's any links, we can put them in the description box below. And I really appreciate what you guys got going out there. It seems like you have a real tight-knit organization. I think that's developing here in Wisconsin as well. I think that the vast majority of people that I interact with are tired of the system in a whole, and they know that it's being exposed daily. I hope to do it again. I hope to do like my plan for this podcast is to get people out there to where they can have their entire like party participate in a Q&A kind of thing with the audience if I can get it built up enough. I'm working, trying to get people on here. I think people enjoy the conversation because it's not bending to one way or another. Let's have some banter. Life experience will give us some point of views on where we came to these timelines and our ideas. And I think that just promoting liberty as a general idea that the human being can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without government interference, without other human beings interfering, because as long as we can cooperate for mutual benefit, our society is going to thrive. I think we were there before. We can get there again.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I will drop links into under the video so you can follow the candidates, support them if you can. If you have the means to do that, that would be great. The only last thing I would say is that the secret to the success in Washington's Libertarian Party is being able to work together. Not everybody sees everything eye to eye, but the one thing that we are absolutely committed to is that we are not the enemy. We do not tear each other apart. The enemy is out there. The enemy is the state, and we are going to work together to battle against it. And that's my encouragement. If you find yourself at a county or a state affiliate that's infighting, figure that out, because the enemy is. If you guys are hanging out together doing liberty-minded shit, you guys are on the same side. Figure it out. There's a bigger enemy. You need to pool your resources, work together, and you can make it work. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.